All right, buckle up, because we're diving deep today into this super interesting excerpt you guys sent over.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one.
It's all about consciousness, living beyond thought, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it's from a Spanish text, right?
It is, it is.
So we're going to unpack some of these ideas.
Yeah, and it's really practical too, you know? It's not just talking about these concepts. It actually gives you a way to kind of shift your perspective, maybe even access a different way of being.
I like that. I like that a lot. And it seems like it all starts with this idea of self-observation.
Right.
But we're not just talking about, like, noticing your surroundings, right?
Yeah.
This is about something deeper.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a much deeper level of awareness. And the text talks about this difference between like local consciousness and non-local consciousness.
Wow.
So local consciousness, you can think of it kind of like your everyday stuff, your to-do list, that thing you're supposed to do, that kind of stuff. Very immediate, very in the moment.
Okay, so that's like the daily grind, the noise.
Exactly. Exactly.
So then where does non-local fit into this?
Non-local is more like the observer, right? So if you think about yourself in a chaotic situation, like everything's going crazy around you,
Yeah.
non-local consciousness is that part of you that can kind of sit back and observe it without getting totally swept up in it.
Oh, that makes sense. Like, when you're stuck in traffic and everyone's like honking and stressed, but there's a part of you that's just kind of watching it unfold like, okay, this is annoying, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. It's like cultivating that observer within yourself. And the text actually breaks it down into 3 stages.
Okay.
Almost like like you're building a muscle. Like any workout, you got to practice, right?
Yeah. So tell me about this mental workout, stage 1.
Stage 1 is really about developing the ability to just notice your thoughts.
Okay.
Without judgment.
Okay.
And this sounds easy, but it's really tough because our minds are just like boom, 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 thoughts all the time.
Oh, yeah. I can't even follow my own train of thought half the time.
Exactly. It's like a popcorn machine that just won't stop.
Yes.
But that's where stage 2 comes in.
Okay.
It's about moving beyond that knee-jerk reaction to label every thought as like good or bad, It's like you become an impartial observer.
Just pure observation.
Yeah.
So no more mental commentary.
Exactly. Exactly. Be like a scientist just observing an experiment.
That's a challenge, but it's also kind of freeing when you think about it.
Exactly. And here's where it gets even more interesting. So the text suggests that once you start to really master these first 2 stages, something really cool happens. You hit stage 3.
Right.
And stage 3 is about finding the higher counterpart to each thought.
Higher counterpart. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What does that mean?
So think of it like upgrading your perspective. You're facing some kind of problem and your immediate thought is, ugh, this is impossible.
Yeah, classic.
Right. But the higher counterpart is encouraging you to shift that perspective and maybe ask, okay, this is challenging, but what can I learn from this? How can I use this?
So it's like that initial thought might not be the full story. We need to look for a more expansive way of seeing it.
Exactly. Precisely. And to illustrate this, the text actually uses this really great analogy of a still lake.
Okay.
Imagine, like, a perfectly still lake, right? When the surface is totally calm, it can reflect the sky so clearly.
Yeah, it's like a mirror image.
Exactly.
Totally undisturbed.
So how this relates to our minds and these higher counterparts is that the surface of the lake, that's like our everyday consciousness. All those thoughts, those emotions, they're constantly creating ripples. They distort the reflection.
Ah, so our thoughts are like the wind stirring things up.
Exactly. And that deeper, undisturbed part of the lake, that's your non-local consciousness.
Okay.
It's always there.
Right.
But to really see its reflection, we got to calm the surface.
We've got to calm the wind, calm the waves.
Exactly. And that's where self-observation comes in.
So it's not about stopping our thoughts altogether, which always felt impossible to me, but more about creating space for that stillness to emerge.
Exactly.
Like we're not trying to drain the lake, just calm the surface enough to see what's beneath.
Right, exactly. And this is where the text introduces this idea of the antakarana.
Antakarana, now that's a word I haven't heard before.
It sounds complicated, but it's really about building a bridge between our everyday personality, our ego, and something much vaster, our soul.
Okay.
This bridge, this antakarana, is like a pathway we create within ourselves. It's not a physical bridge, of course, but a connection we build through consistent self-awareness.
So by practicing self-observation, by calming the surface of the lake, we start building this inner bridge to connect with the deeper part of ourselves.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
It's like we're creating a clear channel for communication between our conscious mind and a wellspring of wisdom within. And this is where things get really mind-blowing. The text suggests that this deeper non-local consciousness isn't just about personal insights. It allows us to tap into something called soul memory.
Okay, now we're venturing into fascinating territory.
Mm-mm.
What exactly is soul memory? Is this like remembering past lives or something?
It's even more intriguing than that. The text suggests that soul memory isn't about specific past life experiences, but rather about accessing timeless insights, intuitive understanding, a deeper knowing that transcends our individual experiences.
So it's not about remembering who you were in a past life, but about accessing a source of wisdom that's always been there.
Precisely. Think about those moments when you have the sudden flash of insight, a gut feeling that turns out to be right, even though you can't explain why. The text suggests that those moments might be glimpses of this soul memory breaking through.
That's wild. It's like we have this whole library of wisdom inside us just waiting to be accessed. But if this soul memory isn't tied to our individual lives, where does it come from?
This is where things get really profound. The text implies that as our individual consciousness expands through practices like self-observation, it starts to connect with a universal consciousness, a sort of collective wisdom of everything.
So it's like our individual lake is expanding and merging with an ocean of shared awareness. And that's how we access this soul memory.
Exactly. It's like our individual consciousness is a drop of water that eventually rejoins the vast ocean it came from. And by tapping into that ocean, we gain access to a level of knowledge and understanding that goes far beyond our individual experiences.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So it's not just about self-improvement, it's about recognizing this profound interconnectedness between ourselves and everything around us.
You've got it. And this realization can be incredibly transformative.
So we're not just these like isolated individuals, but we're like drops in this huge ocean of consciousness.
Yeah.
And we're all carrying this like ancient wisdom within us.
Exactly.
That's a pretty different way of looking at things.
It is. And the text actually says that embracing this connection, this interconnectedness, is key to unlocking this whole life beyond thought idea.
You know, at the beginning, when we first started talking about living beyond thought, it almost sounded impossible.
Right.
But now I'm starting to get it. It's not about like shutting off our thoughts completely.
Right.
It's more about like changing how we relate to them.
Exactly.
Almost like instead of being in the driver's seat of our minds all the time, we're learning to be more like curious observers.
Yes. Exactly. We learn to see those thoughts as like those waves on the surface of the lake, not the whole lake itself, right?
Yeah.
And that shift, that can be so freeing.
It reminds me of like when you're learning to meditate. Like at first it's all those thoughts just swirling around.
Right.
But then there's this moment where it's like, oh, I see these thoughts, but they're not like me.
Yeah.
Could that be like a little taste of this non-local consciousness?
It absolutely could be. It's that ability to just witness, to observe those thoughts and feelings without getting totally carried away by them. It's about tapping into that deeper wellspring of like peace, wisdom that's always there, even with all the chaos of everyday life.
And it sounds like by tapping into this non-local consciousness, we can then access that soul memory, that like huge well of wisdom and connection. It's a lot to take in. I mean, what could that kind of awareness look like if we could really bring it into our everyday life?
Imagine approaching those challenges that come up, but you're meeting them with this sense of calm, of clarity. You're not getting bogged down in all the worry and the fear.
Right.
Or imagine making decisions, but you're making them from this place of deep inner knowing.
Yeah.
Like you're guided by intuition just as much as logic.
So it's like we're not just limited by our own personal experiences and viewpoints anymore.
Yeah.
Right? We've got this access to this like universal well of wisdom we can draw from. Suddenly, things seem a lot more open.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. As this text suggests, living beyond thought, it doesn't mean we totally stop thinking.
Right.
It's about recognizing that our usual way of thinking, it has its limits. And it's about opening ourselves up to a way of being that's deeper, that's more expansive.
It really makes you think. So if you're listening to this right now, think about this. What if, just like the text says, what if your consciousness, the real you, isn't just stuck inside your head? What if it's actually way bigger than that? What if it connects you to everything, everyone around you? Would that change how you move through the world?
That's a powerful question.
It really is. And who knows what incredible things we might discover as we keep exploring this beyond thought territory, right?
Exactly.
Thanks for diving deep with us today, everyone. We'll catch you next time.